What's up, seahorses?
Happy New Year!
Today we have a STEAM Team special for you.
As some of you know, we had the United States Space Force come and talk to us here at Coral before we went on winter break. The Space Force is the newest branch of the military, and we were honored to have the chance to get to talk to Major Corinne Konings.
We know some of you weren't able to make it, but don't worry, we have your back. Check out the interview from the U.S. Space Force when they came out to visit us virtually.
In the United States Air Force for 10 years, and I am currently working out of Los Angeles Space Force Base all the way in California. Do some of you guys know, do you guys know where California is, how far away it is from New Mexico? Yeah, a little bit away, yeah. So I'm out here this morning, coming live to you. My current job title, I'm the Program Manager of the Innovation and Prototyping Directorate for EWS. What does that mean? That means that I am working on a program to build a new weather satellite that will get launched into space in a few years. Awesome. So my hometown is Turlock, California. I grew up just a little bit away from where you guys grew up. But I've been all over the world. I just came from Germany a year ago after being 3 years over there. But now I'm back on US soil and happy to be here to talk to you guys today. Okay, so my background, I entered the Air Force back in 2011. And when I started, I was an air weapons officer and an electronic combat officer. What does that mean? That means I flew around on these planes and I helped air police our airspace around the United States and then around Europe for our allies. So we fly around and we kind of make sure that everybody is where they're supposed to be and that we don't have any bad guys trying to come in the wrong areas near where we live. So I did that for 9 years, and for every step of my career, space and STEM have touched each part. So how did space and STEM relate to this aircraft or relate to me? Let me tell you. Okay. So what does space and STEM do? Can somebody please tell me what STEM stands for?
Max. Oh. Go ahead, Max.
Science, technology, engineering, math.
That's right. Science, technology, engineering, and math. And what is space, guys? Where is it?
It's probably about, well, I just know it's really far away, but I don't know how far it is.
It's above our atmosphere, right? It's outside, it's above the clouds, it's outside of Earth, right? It's outside of what we breathe and know. So yes, that's good enough. You're absolutely right, both of you. Thank you. So space and science, technology, engineering, math allows our warfighters, people like me who are in the Air Force and the Space Force and the Marine Corps and the Navy and the Coast Guard and all of those things to talk to each other using satellite communications. So without those satellites orbiting our planet, we cannot communicate with each other very well from plane to plane, from plane to ground, or in any way really. So these communication systems are key to figuring out exactly the locations of everybody who's a friend, people who are maybe non-friendly. It's key to conducting airstrikes. So in the event that somebody needs help and they need support, using our warplanes, we need satellite communications to be able to talk to them and also to be able to target for them. And that's where that comes in. Now, when it also comes to search and rescue, if somebody is lost at sea or let's say there was an accident and they're stuck somewhere, we use satellite radios and communications to not only talk to them, but help locate them using GPS, which is Global Positioning System. And all of these satellites are currently orbiting the Earth, and they help us do that. Okay, I think we talked about this. Was this the last thing you guys heard me talk about? No, was this the last thing you heard me talk about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Boy, stop. Yes, this is where you were at the communication part. You were correct.
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, communications that we get from satellites orbiting the Earth are really key to us figuring out exactly where we have friendly people on the ground, in the air, on their ships, and then non-friendly people or adversaries. So essentially, these satellite communications are so critical to us staying in touch with each other and understanding every area of operations that we work in. It's also key to conducting any airstrikes because we use GPS-guided weapons sometimes, which is Global Positioning System. And also, we need those satellite communications for radios in order to talk to or people on the ground or on ships, like we talked about before. The other really cool thing that satellite communications does is if somebody's in need or potentially lost in the ocean or lost anywhere else, we use sat communications to do search and rescue for everybody. A lot of times, everybody that flies out there has a SATCOM portable radio with them in case of emergency. And that has a beacon that will connect and enable them to talk to rescuers. So that's a really cool feature that we have. Now, can you see the next slide, the what I do now?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so now as a program manager here at Los Angeles Space Force Base in the Innovation and Prototyping Directorate, I oversee a team of scientists, engineers, and professionals, and we're developing a new weather satellite. Can you guys see that giant satellite behind me in the photo?
Yeah.
Major, can you put it in the read view so we can see it just a little bit bigger?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Sorry about that. Once you get booted off, you got to regroup. So this giant satellite behind me is what's called the DMSP satellite, or the Defense Meteorological Satellite Program. This is actually, and actually its sister spacecraft, they're orbiting the Earth right now. So right now, this model is currently above your head circling the planet, giving weather readouts for clouds and space dust and stuff like that. What my team is trying to do is build a replacement for this satellite right behind me. The reason being is this satellite was actually built back in the 1960s. So this is what we were working with over 50 years ago, and it's been working really well for us up until that point. But now all of our scientists, our engineers, our program managers, we want to get something newer up there and something that'll give better forecasting for everybody to use. Okay. So what, can you see my new slide, Space and STEM?
We're still looking at this right now.
Hold on, Mr. Urban's telling her. There we go.
There we go. Okay. So with Space and STEM, our next generation weather satellite, look up and you're looking at the clouds and maybe you're trying to see some shapes, but you notice those clouds move maybe pretty slowly, right? So from above the Earth in low Earth orbit, these satellites are taking pictures of these clouds and measuring them. And what does that do? That allows us to forecast the weather. And why is that important? Why do you guys think it might be important to have a weather forecast?
Go ahead, Ms. Martinez.
Oh, sorry. Avalon.
Because that what if one day
Alright, so loud.
because one day what if it was cold and someone didn't know so they put on like short sleeves.
Right, we need to know how to dress
Yeah.
for the weather.
That's right. That's absolutely right. You need to know how to dress. You need to know how to plan your day out, right? And you're going to look at the weather and figure out, okay, should I wear sandals and shorts today? Or should I wear rain boots, pants, and a jacket? So yes, absolutely. And then what we can also see with these satellites is dust and ash. And I'll tell you why that's important. So by looking at how these clouds are, or where they're located and where these clouds move and how they move and whether or not we can see dust and ash is key to forecasting weather for any military planning that we do, and really any planning that anybody does. So that goes into conducting operations or strikes, and even more important, air travel. Has anybody ever flown on a plane here?
No.
So some of you have, some of you haven't, but has anybody ever seen a plane flying overhead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those planes have jet engines on them, and those engines do not like to have ash in them. It's bad for them. It's like with driving through a dust storm, exactly. So by being able to measure where we have dust and ash, we can ensure that anybody traveling in the air is safe, because ash isn't good to engines. And do you guys know why there might be ash in the air around the world? Does anybody know why that might be?
Greece.
Volcanoes.
It's because that ash might actually cause a fire. It might mean that there's a wildfire of somewhere beyond where you are.
That's true, absolutely. If there's a big enough wildfire, that's going to cause a lot of smoke and ash, and you're right, we totally want to avoid that. But there are also some very large active volcanoes in the world. One of them in Iceland, and a few years ago that erupted. And when that volcano erupted, it put a lot of ash up into the atmosphere, up into the clouds in the air, and it ended up routing every commercial aircraft coming out of Europe trying to come to the United States for about a few months, actually. So by using the satellite above our head, they were able to track that ash and make sure that everybody who was trying to fly could fly safely. Okay, and next we're going to do a little video, so please let me know when you can see the video screen.
The United States Department of Defense, through the U.S. Air Force, offers a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for those that hear the call of duty, along with the desire to make history beyond this planet, the chance to serve their country and be a part of developing our nation's capabilities in the United States Space Force. The U.S. Space Force is growing and opening doors to a new generation of digital engineers, space operators, cyber experts, and software programmers. Today's students can now see themselves as the future workforce deployed into space. STEM education is the path to this future. It is the pipeline that transports the youth of today to the next generation of elite members of the Space Force and the United States Air Force. Science, technology, engineering, and math are the core of education and the future of our students. As children learn through interaction and imagination, participation in STEM activities inspires and encourages their growth, knowledge, motivation, and investment into their own futures. STEM education allows our next generation of creators and makers to develop interests leading to related careers. Occupations in STEM are surging, including those in the United States Air Force and Space Force. The continued success of our military depends on new and sophisticated technology from brilliant minds. As we inspire students to be engaged in STEM, we hope that someday they will take those skills into the labs and fields of the Air Force and Space Force. Top scientists, engineers, mathematicians, researchers, and inventors lead the breakthroughs in technology and defense innovation. This growth enables the U.S. to take on the role of enhanced security, protecting the future of a commercial space economy today and into the next 100 years. Space-based support moved to the forefront to maintain global defense superiority while protecting U.S. and allied interests. The U.S. Space Force manages space launches and DoD satellites that provide communications, GPS, missile warnings, situational awareness, and weather updates, as well as monitor ballistic missile launches around the globe. Space surveillance provides critical information on the location of other satellites and space debris in an unmatched example of national protection. Working with our U.S. coalition partners, the Space Force's objective is to increase our capabilities as it maintains the security, stability, and accessibility of space. As we continue to create critical thinkers and problem solvers, as we support the next era of inventors and innovators, we do this through hands-on learning and real-world applications. We are preparing today's students to be tomorrow's leaders.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Martinez, for giving the assist on that one. I appreciate it. So at the end of the day, you guys, and everybody can still hear me, right? Yeah. Yes, awesome. So at the end of the day, STEM is a team sport. It's going to take everybody working together to create new ideas and technology that we can all use. So that includes artists and graphic designers who help us see what these ideas look like. My own background is not in engineering or mathematics. I have a degree in geography and spatial relationships, but I'm a program manager in a STEM career field with the Space Force, working with a team of highly trained mathematicians, engineers, and scientists. So what that makes me do as a non-scientist is get into the books and study and make sure that I can communicate with the people who are trying to get us to where we need to be and making sure we are moving in the right direction. So even if you're not quite in the STEM field when you grow up, as far as what your degree may be, it doesn't mean you can't be directly involved in developing new ideas and technology that we're going to use going forward for everybody. Now, what do you guys use every day that has a space connection? Can anybody, and I'll let to Ms. Martinez's class first. Is there something that you guys use every day that you think has a connection to something we're doing in space?
What's something you use every day?
Space. Tablet. Oh, technology.
What kind of technology? That's okay. Riley? Tablets.
Yeah, tablets, absolutely. What about cell phones, smartphones? How many of you like to either play on maybe a PS4 or 5 or an Xbox? Quite a few. And that online gaming, if you're ever playing online or playing with any friends, uses space technology to be able to communicate and reach out to everybody. So over to Mr. Urban's class. How many of you guys know somebody who may have a job in science, technology, engineering, or math, and you can't use me today? Does anybody know anybody that works in that field in their life?
Devin.
My dad works my stepdad works on a dealership, and he always has to do like percentages and how much money they have to pay for the car.
So that's for financing. But so does anybody know anybody that works in space or anything to do with space?
My dad, my dad works at plumbing and
Where does he work?
at plumbing.
Plumbing? Okay, so anybody that work at space, in space, not here on Earth.
Anything in mathematics or science and technology is okay.
I
So
apologize.
actually,
So,
no, it's
yeah.
all good.
That's my fault.
So in accounting, like the young man was saying, accounting, if he works in finances, he's working with mathematics and numbers, and accounting is important. And it's important to us too, because the way we use our money matters when we're building these satellites and stuff, right? Because they're expensive. How much do you guys think a single satellite might cost? Anybody know?
Mila, how much do you think?
I think like $1,000.
She says $1,000.
$1,000. Okay, we're gonna go a little bit higher. How about roughly $45 million?
45 million.
What in the world?
But it depends on the satellite, right? It depends. It depends on how big it is. It depends on what it's for. It depends on where we need to launch it. But whenever we have a satellite go up, you're looking at a minimum of several $1 million to do it. So there is a lot of money involved, and we do need budget people and cost people and people who have studied math and finance at school to help us with that. So we don't overspend or underspend on making sure that gets done. Now, are there things that you guys use every day that you think, you know what, this could be better? This could work better. If only they would do this. Is there anything out there that you guys use every day that you think needs to be improved every day?
I'll go. Ide, what's something that could be better? But like something that could be better in terms of like something that you use every day and you're like, I could make this better by doing this. Think about it. Mackenzie.
Cars.
She says cars.
Yeah. What do you think could be better about cars? Like how they travel? What part of it kind of you're like, oh, this needs to be worked on?
Well, I just think it could be like, there could be more improvements to cars, like having more room for more gas so that they can run a longer time, or
Right.
really strong tires so that they couldn't pop.
Right, absolutely. So enforcing tires so they don't pop. And also, I think we're all hearing too, a lot of companies are trying to develop electric vehicles now, right? Who's heard of Tesla? A lot of people have heard of Tesla, right? Because gasoline's kind of expensive. I think if you all have parents who are gassing up their cars, you can probably hear them say, wow, gas has gotten expensive. So one of the ways that scientists, people in technology, engineering, and math are trying to reduce that hurt of paying so much is to really invest in electric vehicles. What do electric vehicles also do that could be a little bit better for everybody?
Alex.
Tesla can self-drive.
They can self-drive, but they also don't put out carbon monoxide, do they? They don't put out emissions, which goes into our atmosphere and which can deplete portions of our ozone layer. So what that means is it should be more environmentally friendly, hopefully, having those electric vehicles on the road. That's a really good point. Absolutely. So one question, why do you guys think, though, we don't see as many women in STEM as we might see men in science, technology, engineering, and math?
Clarice, why do we see more men than women in STEM? Say that. So they doubt women?
Yeah.
They doubt women?
Why is that?
Marty.
Well, I think they love women because
Nice and loud.
I think they got women's because
Someone pick on someone else? Well,
I think they should like let women in because they kind of actually wait no. I think they don't let women in because they say that like women learn better by themselves.
by themselves?
Yeah, like with other girls.
Oh, okay. So she's saying that they might not let women in because women build each other up more than men.
Okay. Yeah, those are good points. Absolutely. I think too, you guys just haven't seen a lot of women scientists running around, so maybe you don't think to yourselves, oh, that's something I can do. I was telling Miss Martinez that one of my very good colleagues, her name is Jessica, she's a captain, currently deployed right now. She's in charge of basically finding rockets for us. And when I say finding rockets, I mean finding Titan rockets that are about 40 stories high and SpaceX launches. She's in charge of buying rockets for us to launch these satellites on, and she's an engineer by trade. She has, I think, one of the coolest jobs I've ever seen. Another friend of mine is a fighter pilot in F-22s, and she's one of probably 4 women in her fighter unit that's flying F-22 fighter jets, which are the ones with the really cool delta wings. So I think as both boys and girls, we can work together, and if you think it's too hard or it's not for you, we need to remember it is for everybody. It can be men and women, boys and girls, all doing science, technology, engineering, and math, because some of the best women I know are making some of the biggest steps forward. So I hope when you guys see me up here today, you know that it's not just a men's sport, but it's also a women's sport. But we all work together and we all build each other up. So when you're helping each other with your science projects in the future or with math, make sure that you don't give up on each other and you keep pressing forward. Now, Miss Martinez and Mr. Urban, I'll open it up to you guys if you want to run a Q&A session with the kids and go for questions.
Sounds good. Go for it, Miss Martinez. Keep it going.
Okay, so she's letting us ask any questions that we want. Emma, you want to come up here so we can hear you a little bit better? And then let's make sure we stand when we talk, ladies.
Is there more like teams of the Space Force over the world? Like,
are there a lot of teams? Are there a lot of teams in the Space Force all over the world?
Yes, we're moving all over the world right now. I actually was in the Middle East at the beginning of last year in a country called Qatar, which is about 9,000 miles from here, over the Atlantic Ocean and across the Arabian Gulf, so all the way around the world. And we have a space command section within my work center, and there's a team of space people tracking satellites and tracking communication systems. So we have teams at command centers all over the world and in the United States as well.
All right. Any questions on this side?
Are there Space Force teams in Africa?
Is there a Space Force team in Africa?
In Africa, probably. We have a command called AFRICOM, which is the Africa command, and there is more than likely a few Space Force officers around there. We are truly, within the U.S. military, we are truly a joint force. And what does that mean? It means that just because I'm in the Air Force and somebody's in the Space Force, or maybe they're in the Marine Corps or the Army or the Navy, we all still work together and we all work on teams together when we need to.
Kiara.
How do you launch satellites into space?
Oh, that's a tough question. How do we launch satellites into space? Very carefully. Basically, you have to build that satellite over a period of years And then you have to have a team of engineers, scientists, and specialists load that satellite into a rocket and what's called a payload and get that mounted properly so that once that goes into space and the rocket disconnects, that the satellite can go out and deploy at the right altitude, at the right angle, and all of that. Because if you just mess up even a little bit, you could have that satellite burn up in the atmosphere and re-enter.
Very cool. Any more questions on this side? One.
Is there a Space Force in China?
In China?
Yeah.
I don't believe there's not a US Space Force in China, but there is a Chinese space agency. And they are launching their own satellites all the time. Absolutely. Every major country like Russia or China or the United States, the European Union, all have space agencies.
Lily, you can come ask your question. Come up here. And try and be nice and loud, okay?
Are aliens real? That's a good question.
She said, are aliens real?
Are aliens real? The answer to that, I don't know. I don't know if aliens are real or not. How many of you guys think that there might be aliens out there?
I think there's aliens.
Not me. I think there's some type of out here.
Maybe you guys are the aliens. All right, that was a cool question. Let's see, one more on this side. Over. Whoever. Yes, you have a question? Go ahead. Ask a question. Go ahead. You think of it, let me know.
How frequently do you launch satellites?
How quickly?
How frequently?
Oh, frequently. Oh, geez. We just launched 2 this week. There are satellites, both military and civilian, going up probably on a monthly basis. So we're launching on average right now probably about 40 a year from the United States alone. So that, I don't know if that sounds like a lot, but it is quite a lot because the work that goes into getting a satellite up can take 10 years before it even goes. So you have people that work on these projects to get these satellites airborne, and it takes quite a long time. It sounds like an eternity or like a lifetime to you guys, right? 10 years is a lifetime. But for us, we work on it and we get that satellite launched so that we can do things like improve communications or your video gaming experience, maybe. Are you guys aware, or how many of you guys are celebrating Christmas or the holidays? Just about everybody? So a lot of you, and so I think there are quite a few of you that are waiting for a visit from Santa Claus later this month, and we actually have an app called Track Santa run by the North American Defense Agency, or NORAD. And we track Santa from NORAD as he moves across the world, and you can follow along too. If your parents want it, it's a free application, but we track Santa every year as he moves around the world and delivers gifts, and that's actually with the help of satellites as well. We have to be in communication with the sleigh as we go around, so.
That's awesome. Okay.
All right, who has any more questions? Go ahead.
Do you sometimes work for cops? Sometimes, like, when you guys partner up
With the police.
yeah, with the police?
Do we work with the police? We don't work with the police, but they help secure the bases sometimes. So local law enforcement we work with them at the level of kind of protecting like our campuses. sometimes, but we normally have, the military has their own police called security forces or military police. And so we actually have people that serve in uniform like me who are police officers in the military. So we have our own police force most of the time, but if we ever need help, we know we can call the local police who are great help when we need them.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, a couple more, Jack.
Have you or somebody else that you know tasted space food? And if you have, what did it taste like?
Have you
Have
ever
I
tasted,
had space food?
and what does it taste like?
Yes, I have had astronaut ice cream before. Yeah, I had some astronaut ice cream once, but it tasted okay. It was a little mushy, but it was okay. So what they do a lot of times now, if you guys, when you brush your teeth, you know when you have your tube of toothpaste?
Yeah.
So they put food for the astronauts in tubes like that, little packages that they can squeeze food out of, and sometimes it's delicious. Sometimes they put it down, they put apple pie a la mode in a little squeeze tube, like a toothpaste tube that you use at home, and the astronauts can have dessert sometimes.
How cold does it get in space?
Below freezing, well below, really cold. Really cold that if anything goes out into space, it's going to freeze instantly, pretty much. The exact temperature, I would have to look up. But that's why if somebody goes on a spacewalk, they have a lot of heating and insulation in that spacesuit so that it can stay nice and warm in there.
Marius.
Do you have to know other languages?
Yes. Do you know what I have to know? I have to know how to speak technology. I have to know how to speak about something called SWAP, which I thought was maybe trading. SWAP actually stands for size, weight, and power. And that's about the size of a satellite, the weight of the satellite, and how much power it needs to run. So you have to learn an entirely new language of the area that you're working in. And that's the language that I have to know. Now, I know a little bit of Dutch and a little bit of German. But beyond that, I unfortunately am only proficient in English. But when it comes to working with STEM, you have to speak a different language, and that is the STEM language of whatever field you're in.
Priscilla, you can ask your question.
Have you ever been in space?
Have I ever been in space? No, but I have spent about 2,000 hours flying around the Earth on different aircraft. So I haven't gone up to space so far, but I do have friends that have made it pretty close. We have some planes that go pretty high, above 70,000 feet. And I have a friend that flew on a plane called the U-2 Dragon Lady. And this plane goes up above the atmosphere, almost to space. And they have to wear a spacesuit. And when they're up there, they can actually see the entire curve of the planet while they're up there. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I never got the chance. Maybe one day.
Oh.
If you ever gone to space, would you get homesick?
I think I would a little bit. I think we all miss our families, right? When we're away for a little bit of time. Do you think you would get homesick if you guys went to space?
Yeah.
Is there anybody who wouldn't get homesick maybe?
Okay.
Living in a little tube in space. No grass, no air. Yeah.
I found out from spending several months of my life in the desert, and you guys are in the desert too, that I did miss trees and grass.
Aww.
Why do you have rockets?
Why do we have rockets? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's simple. We have rockets because we don't have a good enough piece of technology yet, or a good enough way to get us out of the atmosphere, how we need to get out. Because right now, most planes, they're trying to develop some really cool planes right now, don't have the ability to hold the level of fuel or produce the amount of thrust, which is like how much power it has to get out of the atmosphere to get an object out of into space. So we need rockets that produce enough power to either put people into space or satellites into space.
Yeah.
But maybe one of you guys could come up with a really good aircraft at some point, please, that could break out through the atmosphere and get us into outer space. I'm hoping one of you can do that for me in about 15 years or so.
What?
It's a real loud town. Speak up. Project.
Is NASA a space team?
Is NASA a space team?
Yeah, they are their own space team. Does anybody know what NASA stands for?
I don't know.
Camila.
Isn't it?
What next else?
She forgot.
It's okay. It's the National Aeronautic Space Administration. So that is our civilian space agency, which is run by the United States, and that's they're civilians, so they're not they help the military sometimes, but they're run by a civilian agency. Whereas the Space Force is run by the Department of Defense. So that's the difference. But yeah, NASA is its own space team, but they're just a civilian space agency. Any more questions from anybody today?
I don't know if Mr. Urban has more. I have girls raising their hands on this
I mean,
one.
we could kind of go on forever, so we could. It's up to you. I had a real quick question.
I have a few more minutes for sure.
Okay, I have a quick question. Any of your engineering projects, did you ever stumble across any huge problems that really you had to maneuver around, or trying to think of the proper phase?
Actually, for our projects, we run into problems all the time that are small, and a lot of them have to do with making sure that we can secure everything properly. Because one of the big things that we deal with in the military is cyber, which is like internet access, right? So we have to make sure that we're able to encrypt things and secure them from going out to the right people and being on the right channels. And that's a big challenge for us because everything's moving so fast, things are developing so quickly. So to secure things and make sure that we engineer them properly is an ongoing challenge for sure.
Major, we talked about our North Stars, hard worker,
Yes.
honesty, protector, respectful, sacrifice.
Yes.
Can you tell us which one, if all of them apply to your job?
So yes, so we have some North Stars in the rooms, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you need to start following those North Star principles if you want to succeed and you want to be a leader or somebody who develops new technologies or moves into the STEM field. Integrity is important because at the end of the day, you need to be honest with your team and work hard, right? And then you need to be honest. If something goes wrong or you encounter a problem, you should never hide it. You should always tell your team immediately because it is a team sport. if I find a problem with our program or with the satellite development, and it could have been a problem that I missed earlier, I immediately start talking to people about it. Because it's never going to help me by staying quiet. It's not going to help the team if I keep it to myself. The only way I might be able to solve that problem is to get the help from the rest of my team and honestly take responsibility. And then respect, being respectful. Sometimes you have a lot of different opinions, right? A lot of people have a lot of different thoughts on how things should go. It's so important to stay respectful when communicating and when listening, and give everybody a chance to speak up and speak their mind. And then make sure that you kind of say thank you for your opinion or for your input, and work together on coming to a solution. If you're not respectful, it can create problems within a team, right? If somebody's not nice to you, you don't really want to work with them. So that's such an important part. And then sacrifice. It takes a lot of time and hours to work on these projects. And I think everybody works really hard. So really kind of recognizing that everybody puts hard work in and puts in that sacrifice. Make sure sometimes when you're working on your team, you say thank you to each other. And thank you for working and helping out with this, because that sacrifice is shared with everybody. Everybody has to work hard for something to work together. So for all of you North Stars out there, for those that are working towards becoming North Stars, all of those characteristics, those things, integrity, hard work, honesty, respect, and sacrifice, keep working at it. Sometimes we're not always going to get it right, but at the end of the day, if you keep working at trying to achieve those things, I think you'll be okay.
That was excellent. Should we wrap it up there? Do you want to?
Yeah, I think we're good to go. I want to say thank you. Thank you so much to the Coral Community Charter School, and go Seahorses. And I'm so glad that we got to talk to you about STEM today. I hope you guys continue to look into science, technology, engineering, and math, and look towards that for your future. And if you think that you want to get involved in that, reach out and talk to people and find a way. Thank you so much for having me today. It's truly been an honor for me to be here. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and a happy holiday.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. All right, signing off here.
We look forward to new guests that can share their experiences with STEAM. Thank you so much to the U.S. Space Force and Major Konings.
See you later, Seahorses.